Bases dropped on your Thursday thoughts here at Soccer's Morning Show, Soccer Down Here. John here, you there. And there's a lot of stuff on the table this morning. And first off, I'm going to apologize because I'm kind of low gearing it this morning. For those of you that listened last night for the opening round of the GHSA playoffs, thanks for hanging out with us. And it was a fantastic game with Osborne and Denmark in the upper right-hand corner of your brackets as you follow along. And I guess this is opening kickoff, so I'm wasting no time this morning. And morning, guys. Yeah, Bam. Bam will get into that in the morning and just a little bit, and we'll also get into your opponent coming up too. We've got Champions League. We've got CONCACAF Champions League. We've got stuff on the fronts of shirts. That's going to be a bit of a deeper dive this morning with what's going on with the Premier League and gambling. And we'll kind of cross-reference the decision by the Premier League and our friends at Yosemar Sports, who have been doing some Yosemar Football, have been doing some fantastic work on breaking down just the questions that arise with the origins of a lot of these companies that you see on the fronts of jerseys in English football. So we'll get into that. We've got teammates punching each other. We've got Continental Classico and a lot of other things. So this is opening kickoff by process of elimination, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. And once again, reminder, when you go to Morning Ricky, Morning Alex, Morning Sean, Morning Bam, and reminder, use the code Soccer Down Here 15, and you get 15% off of your purchases. And they, in turn, take 10% reinvested into the youth game. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. So last night, it was the opening round of the playoffs here in high school. And we've got that going on here in the state of Georgia. And we've had some 1-4 matchups in the higher classifications that really aren't 1-4s. And when Jason was kind of peeking at the brackets in the highest classification, we saw this particular matchup. And Osborne, region champ, Denmark came in as a 4 seed, but they lost to 2 top-ranked teams, one in penalties and one by 1 goal. And so as a result, we were like, okay, let's dive into that one. And it took a while. And it was 1-1 after 80 minutes. 1-1 after 90 minutes, getting into the second period of extra time. It was a 10-minute period. And nice. And Knicks, the Danes, they counted themselves very, very well. You had a goal by Denmark with about 4.5 minutes to go in the second extra period. Then at 25.9 seconds left, you got an equalizer. So after 100 minutes, it was 2-2. The game is up on the up in the archive on the app, so you can listen to the whole thing. And I mean, it's 2 hours and 40 minutes, I think, or something like that. But it went for a while, and we go to penalties. And in the penalty session, they were 8 for 8. First 4 frames, and everybody makes it. Top of the 5th for Denmark. Well, the player that scored the goal that gave them the lead in the second period of extra time went Panenka. So go to the bottom of the 5th, and Denmark saves the penalty attempt in the bottom of the 5th, so they advance as a 4 seed. And they will play in the round of Sweet 16 in Gwinnett County against another team there. So you had 2 4s knock off 1s last night in one quadrant. So you had that going on last night. Some pieces of history for teams well outside the Atlanta area. Lincoln County boys, first ever playoff appearance, first off win. They traveled to Bowden. So basically they went from one end of the state to the other. Probably 4.5, 5-hour ride, and got a win, first time ever for the boys. And go to ghsa.net for your brackets so you can follow along. But Knicks' Denmark Danes got a big win on the boys' side last night, and we were, we were pleased to be able to bring it to you, brought to you by our friends at Kaiser Permanente. And Kaiser Permanente, great sponsor with us here at SDH. So we had that going on last night and had a lot of other things going on last night. And so high school playoffs, that's your opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. And once again, use the code Soccer Down Here 15. You get 15% off of your purchase. And then they, in turn, that Kickoff Coffee, take 10% reinvested into youth initiatives. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and kickoffcoffeeco.com. All right. So you guys have already been getting fired up in the comments. I know Bam's been getting fired up in the comments about Drew Fisher. And we can kind of get into assignments and things. Oh, that reminds me. We've got our broadcast assignments for this weekend when it comes to Major League Soccer. Let's get into that. I think Keith Costigan and Mo Adu are going to be calling the Atlanta United Toronto match this weekend. So we've got that to look forward to with Keith and Mo. And your assignments for broadcast for the week. No early games on there's no early game going on for Big Fox. That is reserved for El Tráfico on Sunday. So you've got Jen Hildreth, Lori Lindsay. They are in Charlotte for Charlotte and Colorado. Max and Dunny are in Columbus for New England and the Crew. Stefano Fusaro and Greg Sutton, they are calling DC at Montreal. Kanji Man and Danny Higginbottom are in Harrison, New Jersey for Houston and Red Bull. Kevin Egan and Kendra D. St. Aubin. So the Kevin and Kendra show goes to the Bronx. So it is Nashville and NYC for them. Keith and Mo, once again, they're in Toronto for Atlanta and Toronto FC. 8:30. Adrian Healy, Kobe Jones, American legend Kobe Jones. They are in Austin for Vancouver and Austin. Tony Husband, Ross Smith are in Chicago for Philadelphia and Chicago. It'll be interesting to see how Philadelphia lines up for that one. Rogo and Heath Pierce, Mark Rogandino, Heath Pierce are in Dallas for RSL and FCD. Callum and Kalen are in Minnesota. So Callum gets to return home. Doesn't quite get a home game considering he moved to the big city. But Callum and Kalen get Minnesota United hosting Orlando City. Tyler Terrens, Devin Kerr, they are in St. Louis for St. Louis City SC and FC Cincinnati. Your late games, Jake Ziven, Taylor Twellman get Cascadia with Seattle and Portland. And we'll talk about that in just a sec. And you've also got Chris Whittingham, Danielle Slayton. Danielle getting to call her Quakes as she was a part of that broadcast crew last year for NBC Sports California. It is Chris Whittingham, Danielle Slayton on Saturday night late for MLS After Dark with Sporting and San Jose. Jake Ziven, Taylor Twellman on the Apple side for El Tráfico, 4:30 Sunday afternoon. And that is your rundown on MLS Season Pass. So that is for those of you who are partaking more than one game at a time. There's always MLS 360, but that's your announce cruise for Saturday. So Jen Hildreth moves up north for a couple hour drive. So she and Lori Lindsay get Colorado and Charlotte. That reminds me, I've got to get Jen on to talk about things going on in the NWSL, and there's some other things going on in the NWSL that we need to talk about with ownership moves and changes and things like that involving OL Reign and involving Michelle Kang. So one is intriguing. Actually, both are intriguing. One involves addition. One involves subtraction. So we've got that going on this morning as well when it comes to the show. All right. Yeah. All right. Let's get into our ref assignments and almost as fun as things are laying out last night. Here's what we know. Your ref assignments for Week 8, take the information as you wish, and we will continue to ingest it as we go. Charlotte and Colorado, man in the middle is Guido Gonzalez Jr. Quick trigger, Chris Penso, say that 10 times fast early in the morning. Columbus and New England at lower.com at the Death Star. Joe Dickerson beat 2-3-4. CF Montreal hosting DC United. Your VAR is Soren Stoichka. And you've got Red Bull in Houston. That's Rami Touchon, who's got the game at Red Bull Arena. Yunus Morakchi is your VAR. NYC and Nashville is Alan Chapman as your center ref. Jorge Gonzalez is your VAR. Ted Uncle is your center ref for Toronto and Atlanta. And Corey Rockwell is your AR. Jair Marufo is your VAR. So maybe Corey Rockwell can balance out what we're going to be getting from Ted Uncle and Jair Marufo. Mark Allaton is going to be the man in the middle for Austin and Vancouver. Greg Dopko is your VAR. Ismail Elfath gets Chicago and Philadelphia. Maybe Ismail Elfath can call persistent infringement and falling down and those kinds of things. Like I said, we will get into Champions League, CONCACAF Champions League coming up in a bit. FC Dallas and RSL, Sergi Boyko. Edvin Jurasevich is your VAR. Minnesota United and Orlando City, Pierre-Luc Lozier. Fotis Bazakas is your fourth. Kevin Terry Jr. is your VAR. St. Louis hosting FC Cincinnati. Lucas Sapala is your ref. Kevin Stott is your VAR. Nima Sagafi is your fourth. Drew Fisher, how you doing? This will be interesting. This is an interesting crew for Portland and Seattle. Here's your rundown here. Drew Fisher's the man in the middle for Cascadia. Catherine Nesbitt, Jeremy Hansen are your ARs. Alex Chilowitz is your fourth. Jose Carlos Rivero is your VAR. Interesting crew top to bottom for Cascadia. Timothy Ford is your ref for San Jose hosting Sporting. Luis Guardia is your VAR. Victor Rivas is your fourth. And for El Tráfico, it is Armando Villarreal in the middle. Michael Barwagon and Jose De Silva are your ARs. Izmir Pekmich is your fourth. Edvin Jurasevich is your VAR for El Tráfico. Now, running the numbers. And already, folks, Bam has been fired up already this morning. How in the world does Drew Fisher get to be the ref at Timber Sounders? That's your gazillion-dollar question. Can Drew Fisher control a rivalry match where you got Seattle, and we're trying to determine things with how things came out last night in a couple of different situations. So we'll get into that in just a second. So Drew Fisher, with the Sounders being where they are in the table, Portland without Eric Williamson now, they're going to be working their way through and trying to navigate a season where they've already had 7 gazillion injuries. So now what happens in this matchup? In a rivalry game, Drew Fisher, we'll see what happens here. So there we go. You've got that to talk about. Michael, how does Fisher get it? Because Pro is not a good organization. Ricky, there you go. Bam. Atlanta or Toronto will be yelling uncle when one team is up 5-0 at halftime. Bam. I wish I had a rim shot. I need a rim shot drop. Yeah, pretty much. Well, but once again, Michael, when you have a monopoly, Michael, no accountability pro has to be better. A quote going on since 1996 almost seems like a slogan for an ad campaign, or what you hang on the rafters in your building. When you walk in, you walk on the wall, and there's the big slogan. Have you had your break today? McDonald's. Pro has to be better. Since 1996, those kinds of things. You look at, so we'll see. I mean, legitimately, you look at Drew Fisher, and that's the thing. How are you going to manage a rivalry? That's the biggest thing for me. How did yesterday go with Bart? Oh, Bart was fired up, Abby. Bart was absolutely fired up. And he should have been. And we'll go over the roster for Continental Classico. And Bart was right on. Caleb Wiley did get the call up, as did Julian Gressel for this 3-day camp. So we'll see what happens with Continental Classico. Abby, it looks like Mallory Swanson yesterday seems to have had successful knee surgery. Dansby was up until 4 a.m. and trying to, make sure that everything was okay with his wife and all of that stuff. So, and he played, and then he had to be pulled for the Cubs. So it was a long night and a long morning for the Swansons, but apparently Mallory's seems to have had successful knee surgery. And we'll see where we got. Bam. Atlanta with Uncle as a ref, 6 wins, 2 draws, and 2 losses. So we'll see what happens with that. 2 of the wins, the 5-1 win over Portland, 5-0 over LAFC in 2018. And, we're still at Abby. Yes, that is the key here. With what happened last time out, the idea will be to see if we get somewhere in the news dump on Saturday morning any explanations about anything, or if it's just going to be, something that's clandestinely posted, no mentions, those kinds of things. So, yes, if everyone would be so kind, keep an eye on your social media channels and see what Saturday morning's news dump is going to look like when we try to get the responses from last week. So we'll have that. Emilio, still don't understand why the owners don't push the league. That is a question. That is a legit question. And if you have a monopoly, which is basically what pro is. I mean, we talked about it. We talked about it a little bit, where if you don't have any competition in the marketplace, traditionally there is no effort or desire. There's no motivation to improve. Sorry, last bit of the vitamins this morning. If you're the only game in town, traditionally you only have the business that you are directly attached to as your, the folks that you are responsible for. So if there's no other, and the thing is that if there's no other entity that you can sit there and I mean, just for the lack of example, let's say the Bart Keeler Refereeing Academy, the BKRA, Bart Keeler's Reffing Academy. If the BKRA was a direct competitor to pro and could show that they had better control over situations, rivalries, the heat in the room, that kind of thing, and you proved that you could build a better mousetrap, then maybe there would be a discussion. Okay, what's it worth to you, pro? What's it worth to you, BKRA, to be the either the new entity that's attached to Major League Soccer or challenge the current entity that's attached to Major League Soccer and pro. But there is no challenge. So, when you're the only guy, when you have a monopoly and you're the only guy there, you're the only guy that built this mousetrap. You have built the referee widget, and no one else has decided to sit there and say, maybe I should build a refereeing widget too, and then try to challenge widget-making businesses. Until that happens, until the BKRA exists, the accountability has to come from Major League Soccer. And to what level, this goes once again into the category of we don't know what we don't know. We don't know if the hue and cry that is on programs like this about the state of refereeing, we don't know if the hue and cry is loud enough to sit there and go, maybe we need to kind of look at things. Maybe we kind of need to look at things here. Maybe y'all need to kind of sit there and go, just an idea. Maybe if we, if we could hold ourselves a little more accountable or something like that. But once again, if there's no outward pressure in a monopoly for the refereeing widget, then you may not see change, or you may not see change to the level that you would like, with displeasure being what it is across the board. So that's the thing here. Until the Bart Keeler Refereeing Academy is created and Bart has his stable of officials that have proven over X amount of time that they have a better track record in keeping the temperature of matches down, calling persistent infringement. And like I said, we'll get after Philadelphia here in just a second. Rich, if you're watching and or listening, we will get into that discussion about last night. And there's also an incident that happened late last night that we'll get into as well when we get into Champions League. But if you don't have those challengers, if McDonald's didn't have the other fast food challengers, and now that Whataburger has been added here in the southeastern United States, look out. If you didn't have those challengers attacking your marketplace and your market share, then you're kind of like, okay, well, why? Why should I? Other than wanting to prove yourself as the refereeing widget maker of choice, why should you alter your plan? And that's the biggest thing here. Until the monopoly is changed, you may just get oopsies and news dumps. So yeah, Bart was fired up yesterday. And the thing is that what we did, yeah, Abby, they are at Whataburger in Woodstock, and that's the thing here. With a new show, you've got to get out in the community. So what do? You go to a place where there's a lot of eyeballs. And I wish there was a Whataburger actually ITP inside the perimeter where we could actually go and do things. So, yeah, and that's what we're staring at. Jason Nix wants to know what Lennon getting called up. Yeah, it seems like Atlanta United thought that he was told that he would be, but so it was Caleb. So we'll see what happens there. Yeah, I mean, Abby, it's a good point. Mallory should speak with Miles about being injured and recovery and missing your world competitions and things like that. So it's right there. Yeah, David, there's nothing like it. There's nothing like it. Soccer fan. I was trying to figure out how to close that sentence up. No, Abby, did Pro always do their report the following Saturday? Didn't it used to be earlier in the week? Yeah. And I think it was just like Wednesday or Thursday. It was not always Saturday in the news dump. Are they figuring people won't look on Saturday since the games are later that day? Yeah. That'd be my guess. That's my gut. But like I said, that's the cynic in me. The cynic in me in these situations always will, when it comes to authority, think about it. When you were a kid, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old, and you did something, like you broke something in the house that, that meant something to your parents, or it was, it was expensive, something like that. If it meant a lot, if it was something of sentimental value that you broke, or if it was something that was expensive that you broke, you're going to sit there and blame the dog. It's like the dog did it, cat did it. Dog's looking up like, what? Or I didn't do it. Those kinds of things. And so you see it a lot with, and it's, even outside of sports, you see it with companies that will sit there and try to explain things away. Yeah, much like a Jose Martinez challenge. But at least I admit it's cynical. David, at least I admit that it's a cynical approach. Unlike Philadelphia, who just kind of sits there and shrugs their shoulders and goes, that's who we are. We didn't do anything wrong. We're all right. Yeah, we'll get into Philly in a bit. But, Pro, I vaguely remember Pro being earlier in the week instead of the Saturday morning news dump. I always thought it was like Thursday or something, and it was like noon, and they made a big presentation, trumpets and, lines of trumpeters, and you walk down the aisle, and da-da-da, and then there it was. Can Pro survive without MLS? Depends on what USL Championship and League One and all the other divisions would do. But financially, I would say no, because the money that would be available, I mean, you'd have to work a lot more games in the lower divisions probably to make up for what you would make up in a match or two in Major League Soccer. So, David, doesn't seem like MLS and Pro are lockstep in their partnership. If so, things like Pringle's review on Twitter and disciplinary committee would be more jointly endorsed or released. And you know, I think that they probably encourage releasing of news. They sit there and it's like, okay, we would like for you to be transparent, especially with a new TV partner and these kinds of things. They probably are requesting or encouraging a little more transparency when it comes to their ideas. It's like, okay, we want fans to be more accessible and trying to understand your decision-making process. So put out a video. They may not have said when you need to put the video out by. They probably said by the next round of matches, put out a video. But yeah, I would swear, Abby, that it was done earlier in the week than the Saturday morning news dump. It's like, you're having Saturday brunch. Oh, there you go. Michael, Pro will say nothing about Fisher on Saturday. I keep saying the owners will eventually do something with Pro, but then they don't. So I guess they never will. We get what we get. Bam with another question this morning. Hamas and Olympiacos have split ways. And Bam is saying that Hamas, he'd love to say LAFC is a replacement for Sifu. And you could see him going to Atlanta. But, all right, so let's get into Hamas before we get into a couple of other things here. All right, so Hamas Rodriguez. Let's check output. Check output for Hamas and see what we got. All right, so after the loan to Bayern Munich, all right, so Real Madrid, 14-20, loan to Bayern in that time frame. 85 appearances for Real Madrid, 29 goals. Internally loaned to Bayern, 43 appearances, 14 goals. Had that spot at Everton, and I mentioned Hamas and Everton and Ropes and Tom Russo put their hands over their ears and go screaming into the night. 6 goals in 23 appearances. Started out hot and then just went. Then he goes to Al Rayyan, only plays 13 matches, 4 goals. 13 matches, 4 goals in Saudi Arabia. October 17, 2021, made his debut. Scored his first goal 9 days later. Then, not even before the contract was a year old, contract terminated by mutual consent. Same day, he goes to Olympiacos on a free, handed the number 10, league debut on the 18th of September as a starter against Aris Thessaloniki. Team loses 2-1. And so Hamas, let's see. So September to April. September is the 9th month of the year. April's the 4th month. So not even, just under 7 months, literally like 6 months and 28 days is what you're staring at. So it was a year at Al Rayyan and 7 months at Olympiacos. A year at Al Rayyan, he only plays in 13 matches, scores 4 times. 7 months at Olympiacos, 19 matches, scores 5. That's what you're getting in the last 2 competitive years for Hamas, who is now 31 years old. Not the same guy that was at Porto. Not the same guy who was at Real and Bayern, and that's 4 years ago. Well, yeah, technically 3 if you go to the end of the Real Madrid run. Everton, bust. Al Rayyan played 13 matches in a year. Olympiacos, 19 matches in 7 months. And we're done. So Knicks, once again, I think kind of summing things up. All these Hamas needs to come to MLS are drunk early today. I mean, first and foremost, I know BAM, you'd love to say LAFC, but what we have seen in Hamas over the last couple of years, early motivation and not a lot of staying power. That's kind of what you're staring at with Hamas over the last couple of seasons, last couple of years. So that's what you're looking at with that. And okay, this is interesting. All right. Once again, Thursday thoughts being what they are. I'm going to go ahead and hit this because it was something that I was going to talk about, but the story has advanced, as they say. So that means we do this. Sadio Mane has reportedly been suspended by Bayern Munich. Forward was alleged to have been involved in a bust-up or a dust-up, depending on whose sentences you believe, with teammate Leroy Sané after the 3-0 loss to Manchester City. Mane is believed to have punched Sané and left him with a bloody lip. Both trained together on Thursday, but now Bild says he has been temporarily suspended. So, Sadio Mane reportedly suspended by Bayern Munich for a bust-up, dust-up with Leroy Sané. And apparently there's video out from our friends at Sky where Sané appears to hide the injury after Sadio Mane punched him in the bust-up, dust-up. Mane was expected, Sky Germany, this morning. And this was about an hour ago. Florian Plettenberg and Torben Hoffmann from Sky Germany. Sadio Mane was expected to apologize in front of the Bayern club after punching teammate Leroy Sané in the face after the defeat at Manchester City. Sky Germany reported Sané's lip was bleeding after the altercation. The two players needed to be separated by their teammates in the dressing room. Bayern Munich officials held a meeting Wednesday to determine punishments for Mane, according to Sky Germany. Among them considered was a fine, suspension, and even a parting of the ways in the summer. Expected Mane would apologize in front of the team at the training session. And it was seen/shown. Both were on the pitch arguing in the latter stages of the match Tuesday night, where City beat the German champs 3-0 at the Etihad. After landing back in Munich, Mane, who was a substitute for the tie, took the team bus from the airport while Sané was picked up privately. On returning to Munich, Sané was pictured appearing to hide his lip from the cameras. Bayern Munich had not commented on the incident, but according to our friends at TalkSport and by Bild, Sadio Mane reportedly suspended now by Bayern Munich for punching Leroy Sané, leaving him with a bloody lip. So, seems like everything is everything is fine and dandy right now for Bayern Munich. And Niall, Mane was the last person I would expect to punch somebody. So there you go. A lot of teammates punching teammates lately across all sports. Yes, that is true. Mane all day long. Knicks has already got the pay-per-view figured out. See if Dana White can get something done with it. Have it on DAZN maybe. Knicks has 50 or 75 extra to spend on a Mane Sané pay-per-view, and he's got the money. His juice boxes are on Sadio Mane, by the way. So there's that this morning. And that was, like I said, that was on the table to talk about. So, so we have a Mane suspension by Bayern Munich, as if things couldn't get any better. And Pep Guardiola revealed he was, quote, emotionally destroyed after the 3-0 win. But once again, I mean, that match showed Thomas Tuchel has a little work to do defensively because the cutback or feeding the back post a couple of times, no one was there to defend what Manchester City was doing and ended up in a couple of goals. So Rodri gave him the lead. Bernardo Silva headed in the second. Erling Haaland. So everybody thought that the win was comfortable. Pep Guardiola was like, not so fast, my friend. No word on if he picked up a number 2 Ticonderoga pencil. It was not comfortable at all. I am emotionally destroyed. I have 10 more years today. It was such a demanding game from 55 to 60 minutes. It was a tight game for parts. They were better than us. From the start of the second half, they were better. We could not control them, but we adjusted something and we were better. It's an incredible result. But we have to do something in Munich at a little bit better, not to suffer too much. We will try to do it. Thomas Tuchel then said it will not be over until we are in the shower, recognizing that 3-0 is 3-0. Yeah, Upamecano was horrendous, according to Niall. And Bam, seeing as LAFC has a relationship with Bayern, I guess we'll take him on loan so they can separate the two. Yes. And Nick's right on top of that one. It's so kind. Yes. Bam is so kind to separate those two from Bayern. Well, considering how John Thorrington is not one to, be shy about any kind of a transaction, Bam. Nothing would surprise me. I mean, you brought in Chicho Arango, you brought in Denny Buonga, who's an MVP candidate. You bring in Chiellini, you bring in Gareth Bale. You're right there up against it when it comes to determining what you can do and what you can't, right up against the edges of the salary structure in Major League Soccer. So there's that. And you got a lot of folks who are wondering about so-and-so taking the Spurs job. And there was an article about Ernest Slutt that was in Telegraph. We can get into that also, where they were like, get this guy. And he's worked with a budget. And he should be chased after by Spurs, Chelsea, and Crystal Palace. And I'm going, if I'm Ernest Slutt, I ain't touching any one of those gigs. So we'll see what happens. Okay, so since we talked about LAFC, let's get into CONCACAF Champions League. And like I said, I know Thursday thoughts kind of fly around all over the place, and then that's normal. So it's not really a surprise. But last night in CONCACAF Champions League, Philadelphia goes to Atlas. Atlas gets the early lead. Philadelphia comes back, gets the win. They advance in the two-leg aggregate. So speaking of LAFC and Philadelphia, bam. What do you think? I'm going to say this once again before we get into, what's going on. Yes, bam, 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 give, never take. Niall's already rooting for LAFC. Although a lot of folks, and Niall, you're not the only one, and this is what we're getting into here. A lot of folks are rooting for the Meteor with these two. Tonight we've got the last matchup to determine your Final Four with Tigres and Motagua, and I think that one is also at 10 o'clock on the FS1 type networks and Tuda NA. I always watch on Tuda NA, but that's just me. Let me see. Central, and let me see how it's designated here. Central America. Oh, I'm not there. Well, hang on. Where did they classify it? Where did they sell? South America. So it's not North America, is it? North and Central America. Yeah, it is. Okay. So classified, Tigres and Motagua. Right now, Tigres big favorite. No real surprise. And winner of Tigres. So what you will have is León against the winner of Tigres and Motagua on one side, and you'll have Philadelphia Union and LAFC on the other. So this is what you're staring at. All right. I'm going to go ahead and put this in as a poll, and it's going to be an easy one, but I need some details. Here. Why do you, dear viewer / listener, have a thing against Philadelphia or LAFC. Now, I want the tails. I want the tails on this. I know that Niall doesn't like Philadelphia. Niall despises Philly. We know this. We know there are a lot of fans. Bam, we know that you are LAFC Australia. Tried and true, waving the flag, banner hanging outside the house, I imagine. They did not hate LAFC because of you. No, it's different things. So, why do you, dear viewer, listener, not like either or both of these clubs? Why are you rooting for the Meteor in this one? Parzival, Philly wastes time and just won't play. And this goes to my deeper issue. I will stipulate, hand over heart, one hand over my heart, the other hand in the air, palm extended. Philadelphia has found a style of play. It is their style of play. They stick to it. They bring in folks that will fit a system. And it is how they are wired. I get it. It's who you are. It's your DNA. I respect you for what you are able to do with your system, but I do not like your system. You have determined a style of play. It is you. You are having success with it. You are not deviating from that one bit. That's you. That's you, Philadelphia. That's who you are. And I respect you for that. What I do not like about Philadelphia, within their DNA, and once again, this also falls on our larger discussion that we had earlier in the show. Philadelphia will foul the ever-loving daylights out of you. They will turn it into a rock fight. And they will find out where the line is with whomever the center ref is. And they will go all the way up to that line. One player, whoever drew the short straw, will be the first player to go to that line. And when that player gets the no more, you're going to get the next player to go up to that line. And then when that player gets it figured out, then there's going to be that third player and that fourth player. The variety of fouls will always be there. The variety of individuals who find the line, don't go past it, and figure out how they're going to play. I respect you for that, for figuring out where the line is in your system, going to it, and taking advantage of the air in the room. I don't like the way you play. I respect that you have a system. I think that the time wasting is of profoundly if you were Philadelphia, and Rich, I'm saying this almost as a compliment, I think, that if there was a book created by CONCACAF about CONCACAFiness, and we'll get into that next, that Philadelphia could write its own chapters and how they apply it to what they do in Major League Soccer. Time wasting, if they've got a lead, begins in the 55th minute, sometimes even sooner. It is players going down, and then when the stretcher comes out, and here comes the Red Cross, and you hear the trumpets and everything, all right, time for you to get on the stretcher. Nope, you stand up, everything's fine. And you're good. So it's now officially official from FC Bayern. They've suspended Sadio Mane for this weekend's match against Hoffenheim. Thank you, Ricky. Finding out where the line is, and if that means that you can hack folks and hack folks and hack folks and play dirty and get away with it and not get cards like what happened last night, How Olivier Mbaizo was on the field for as long as he was, I have no idea. Because there was some nasty contact that was made and was not even reviewed by VAR. And then Mbaizo gets to the point to where he just sits down. Dude's on a yellow, you sit down, and then you get subbed out. How Olivier Mbaizo did not get a red for a contact with studs on the ankles, I have no idea. Like I said, I respect that you have a system and that you don't deviate from it. What I do not like is your style of play. And so now we have Philadelphia and LAFC going against each other in one semifinal. On the left-hand side. So OG's in this morning. She's been lurking. Despise LA teams so much that she'll even root for Philly. Besides, LAFC can't win CCL before Atlanta does. Okay. Bam letting us know Al Nasser have announced Rudy Garcia has left the club. And Abby, to your point, if Pro actually kept track of time, playing and adding it to the end of the match, we shouldn't have a problem. Alex, don't have any problem with Philly. It's on the other teams to figure it out. And that's part of it too. But I think it's also on the officials to sit there and take charge of a match when you start to see this fouling happen and card for persistent infringement. We don't see that enough. We may not see it at all. Probably the number of instances that it happens, very, very rare. You need to have an official that will take charge of a match. Once again, in the match against Atlas last night, that did not happen, especially in the second half. There were instances where I thought that Philadelphia players should have gotten cards, and they did not. Replay showed some nasty stuff. VAR did not signal down. But VAR, however, did look at the one goal that initially it was at 2-1, I want to say, and then the 2-2 goal. VAR took a look at that. So, yeah, Shooter tried to waste away the MLS Cup final too. Knicks should have had Bedoya should have had a yellow in the first 5 minutes. But once again, and in those kinds of situations, Knicks, you sit there and you look at it and you go, okay, I get it. I mean, for me, unless it's something completely egregious, Corey Burke or Siegel, but Siegel's in the 19th minute, not the first 5. Something so egregious, center refs don't want to necessarily have a match starting with a card. You don't want to set that kind of a tone. You want to let the air come into the room a little bit. You want to try to figure out, okay, what's the temperature? What's going on here? Unless it's something completely and totally egregious, you're not going to get that card in the first 5 minutes. I understand that. Shooter very, very happy about his Rev start this year, as you should. David, odds on Mbaizo sitting down and waiting for a stretcher when about to be orange card, son, was minus 7,000. You can make no money on that bet. Absolutely. Niall, Philly, I don't like their style of play, don't like their coach. And that's the other part of this. LAFC get, frankly, too much attention, in his opinion. This would increase the attention. Shooter, Philly's good at second place, except when it comes to the Sixers, then second round. Ricky, well, I don't like Philly's Jim Curtin. He annoys the hell out of me, and for some reason, he can't stop talking about us, meaning Atlanta. Yeah, Atlanta lives rent-free in his head because apparently all Atlanta fans are plastics. So be warned. Now, I'm still hoping/wondering if when Philly comes to town, if the tifo in that match is going to be a Georgia driver's license. I'm just saying. I want to find the quote. So if anybody finds it first, let me know. Let me see if I can find it here. Jim Curtin. This is the most I'll brag about my club tonight. We're authentic. No knock on Atlanta, but if you check the driver's licenses at an Atlanta United game, they're from all over the place because that's just the place to party. Sidebar, Coach Curtin. They're from all over the place because Atlanta United wanted to make an impact in the southeastern United States and across the planet, not just in a footprint. Continuing, you've got 50,000 people getting together to party. There's nothing really wrong with that. My dad sat next to a few, and they were great people, but they were just like, we're SEC football guys, and we're just here because we heard this is a great party, end quote. What they've done is amazing there. Paragraph. But we're kind of authentic, and we did it kind of slowly. The city was with us along the ride and through the hard times, too. Our fans literally got one of our presidents fired. They're part of the growth. I'm proud of it. Our crowd is a real crowd. That's your quote. Talking about life in Chester. Back on February 23rd. So 6 weeks ago? 6 weeks ago, just what Jim Curtin said. So I could definitely understand why he would annoy people. Parzival, California teams, for me, they just talk about them too much. Abby. Despise Philly mostly because of their coach being an ass to our players and their players taking that lead and not playing. Parzival. Philly wastes time and just won't play. And this, the personification of Jim Curtin as wrestling heel manager, he's more Harvey Whippleman for me than he is Paul Heyman. The moment that will always stick with me, that is seemingly the personification of Jim Curtin heel manager. I mean, he's not even Gary Hart or Jim Cornette to me. He is Harvey Whippleman. Was when Caleb Wiley at Mercedes-Benz, I think it was in Philly. When Caleb Wiley went for the throw, and Jim Curtin reaches, he's standing behind Caleb Wiley. He reaches and holds the ball as Caleb Wiley is trying to throw it in. That, to me, is horse bleep. I'm sorry. That's a shenanigan that you don't do. You don't play that kind of a game. You don't run that kind of action if you're a manager. To me, that shows it's gamesmanship, I know. But let the players play the game. Let the action dictate what's going on. You're outside the touchline. You're interfering with play in that situation. You should have gotten a card. No warning. In that situation with Caleb Wiley, you should have gotten a card. And when Atlanta plays Philly, when people play Philly, you need to have a center ref who's not afraid to go blackjack dealer if he needs to emphasize going down, to emphasize, persistent infringement, to emphasize messing around with the game that's going on in front of you. I know why Jim Curtin did it, because it's his persona, and that's how Philadelphia acts. Rich, as I said at the beginning of this, when you catch back up and listen, I fully respect what Philadelphia is building. You have a style. You stick to your style. You stick to your persona. I get it. You don't deviate from it. That's who you are. I respect you for that. But what I do not like is how you approach it. The falling down. For a team that is supposed to be as physical as you are defensively, the second you get hit, you go down like you went to Neymar's acting academy. Two sides of the equation here. If you're going to be physical offensively or defensively, why not be the same offensively and have that same persona instead of trying to goad an official into a call? But that's how you're wired. I get it. But there are so many elements of how Philadelphia plays, and they get away with it. Like I said, they find that line, they figure out where the center ref is, go right up against it, and they have found it. And that is fantastic. Good on you for figuring out where it is every single match day. You have a style, you stick to it. You have a heel manager who enjoys that persona, but apparently Atlanta lives in his head. Last season, as Philadelphia was chasing after MLS Cup, I think the match late in the year that Atlanta United had at Mercedes-Benz was by far the best match that Atlanta United played last season. Going right up against Philly, staring them right in the face, and not afraid to punch him in the nose. I respect Philly for what you do. I don't like what you do. But what you are doing stylistically has gotten you a lot of success. I get it. But I hope folks understand here in Major League Soccer that much like the Southeastern Conference when it comes to college football and the CONCACAF Champions League semi/final, there will not be a lot of folks rooting for you. Whomever advances out of that. Bam, no offense. Rich, no offense. You will not have the, an MLS team is in the final, let's root for them. You're not going to have a lot of that outside of the home market of the team that advances out of the rock fight that's going to be Philadelphia and LAFC. And it will also benefit Philadelphia, if I'm not mistaken, because Philadelphia does not have a match the following weekend after the first leg, I believe. So Philadelphia gets to rest and they can play first choice. They don't have they've got a bye week after the first leg of the CONCACAF semi. LAFC does not. So understand, Bam, understand, Rich, that not a lot of folks outside of your own fan base are going to be rooting for you for the reasons that we've been getting into this morning. And that was why I wanted to post that question to the floor. Tafka wants LAFC to win CONCACAF Champions League. Benefit over rivalry for now. And if Philly goes to the final, it hurts the U20 World Cup team in terms of available call-ups. Parsival, the 3-minute rule they're trying in USL will put a stop to Philadelphia's style of play. Union 2, Parsival, that is an interesting point. All right, so let me check the schedule. I want to check the schedule here when it comes to Atlanta United 2 and the Fraction. So let's check once again as things continue to load slowly here. All right, schedule for Atlanta United 2. When? The end of the month. Okay. End of the month at the Fraction on the 30th, 17 days from now. 6 o'clock Eastern time at Fifth Third Bank Stadium. So Philadelphia Union 2 comes to the Fraction. First off, everybody, by the way, Atlanta United 2 has 3 more home matches to finish out the month of April. Shameless plug. This weekend, on the 16th on Sunday, OCB comes to town, 7:30 at the Fraction. On the 22nd, Saturday, the 22nd, Chicago Fire 2 comes to the Fraction. Then on the 30th, that's Sunday, I think the 30th is a Sunday, 6 o'clock, Philadelphia Union 2, Atlanta United 2 at the Fraction and MLS Next Pro. So it gives all of us the chance to see Philadelphia Union 2, and if the rules are the same, the rules of engagement are the same, how does that 3-minute substitution, the 3-minute layout for an injury, Does that put a stop to the Union's style of play, at least in MLS Next Pro? And I mean, when you think about it, if you're on offense, the rule, and this is something that we've had conversations about. This rule in and of itself, and like I said, this is what Thursday Thoughts are for. This rule in and of itself, the 3-minute rule for injury, the center ref needs to be understanding context when it comes to an injury. Because, I mean, think about it. If I'm on offense, and this is what happened a couple weeks ago when Atlanta United 2 was chasing after an equalizer in the game against New England Revolution 2, first match of the year. Johnny Viala is injured in the 86th minute. Because of the rule, he has to leave the pitch. So as Atlanta United is chasing after another goal, I think it was 3-1 at the time. They were chasing after 3-2. They would eventually get it. And so they're chasing. It was 3-1. Chasing after the second goal and trying to make a comeback. Vial goes down because I think he was kicked by a Revolution 2 player. And he's on offense, so he has to leave. The ref in that situation, you wonder about context and understanding. It's like, okay, why would my player go down if I'm on offense? And I'm playing a man down as I'm trying to chase the game. I'm not going down because I want to go down. I think that referees in MLS Next Pro, it will be interesting to see them watch Philadelphia Union 2 on defense to see if players go down. Here comes the stretch, here comes the physio. See how many times Philadelphia Union 2 employs this, what we see at the parent club, and see if it impacts matches at MLS Next Pro level. So we'll keep an eye on that. Like I said, just keep an eye. It's counterintuitive, on offense. If you have an offensive player go down because of an action on defense, but for defensive players, like we see with Philadelphia Union 2, does it impact them with a 3-minute sub hold? We'll see. Emilio shouldn't have to figure out how not to get injured, however. Agree with having to figure out tactics. Abby, nip it in the bud. If a card is warranted after a warning, then do it. Shooter, Philly doesn't give anything about the Union acting like they're diehard. Abby's going to take a peek at the TIFO. So, I mean, something, I have to look up with the supporters groups doing the TIFO for the Philly match. Something plastic, something driver's licensey, something like that going off of the quote. So that's what I was thinking. So, Shooter, once again, talking about his Revs. At least his Revs admit they're an afterthought, and they've got more fans than Philly. Thank you, Shooter. For Atlanta United, you guys have 100%. Have 100% have better MLS fans. Emilio, does Philly draw 40,000 if they had a larger venue? Shooter, no chance. I mean, because if they played at the Link, would they get 40? I don't know. True, but Alex, once again, if we talk about Atlanta living rent-free in Jim's mind, yet here we are 15 minutes into a Philly rant, of course. I just think that there are times when we all need to be reminded, that's all. And so, when Philly makes it to a semifinal in CONCACAF Champions League, this is why. So, yes, it all stems from the coach, absolutely. Bam, Inter Miami's announced the signing of Dixon Arroyo with a club option for 2024. I will certainly try and find where it was. So hang on just a second, Abby. Jim Curtin, Atlanta United. So really quickly. Okay, so it was so it was a Reddit comment, or at least Reddit was where I found it. So all right, so here I am. I'm actually trying to have technology work for me. There it was. It's posted. There you go. Ricky, main issue with LAFC isn't really with LAFC. It's the way LAFC is covered by the league media. Yes, they are the shiny golden boy, yes. I remember too many instances of Atlanta doing similar good things and being more accomplished before last year than LAFC. Didn't get a lot of leeway for stuff that we did not. LAFC didn't get the flack we got, meaning Atlanta, for similar things. Now is that because we're the biggest and most active fan base in the league? I don't know, but it never added up. Which rule, Parzival? Pull up the rule and read it so we can hear the exact way it's written. I keep hearing about it, but I've yet to find it. Which rule? And then I will do my best to try to find out where the rule is. Abby will mention it to the supporters group. Unsure if they've already had ideas that have been approved on the TIFO. So, Parzival, let me know what rule we're talking about. And then what I'll do is I'll do another search on the interwebs and see if I can get technology to work for me more than once in a morning. Since we have passed the top of the hour, we've gone really past the top of the hour. It is that time where we've got to read a promo and thank our sponsors for what they are doing here at SDH as I adjust my audio levels, and here we go. For order free, clean, fresh air, one place you need to go. It's Eliminized Service. Eliminized Service, proud sponsors of SDH. QR code over my left shoulder for those of you watching on Twitch. Eliminized Service deodorizes enclosed spaces like houses, apartments, and condos. Eliminized Service created a customized solution that eliminizes all organic odors, including those like pet cigarettes and food. Realtors and property managers use Eliminized Service to eliminate bad odors to help them sell or rent their homes that much faster. It's a turnkey process. Makes it easy to work with realtors and property managers. Eliminized Service, kind of the environment. We like that these days. Very, very green way to get rid of odors without any kind of toxic residue whatsoever. Different than Febreze or any other masking agent that you may have either under the sink or above you in the cupboard, because when you reach under the sink or above you in the cupboard and pull out the masking agent, there's a reason that they call it a masking agent. Because all you're doing is masking the odors when you spray it in the air. You're not attacking the problem all the way down to the molecule like our friends at Eliminized Service do with their proven scientific formula. Pricing very, very easy. One of two ways, either by the cubic foot or parts per million, to come up with a price that's affordable for you, offering results in 24 hours or less. This is where I pick up my pen because you got to go to a website. Go to Eliminized.com, but do us a favor here at SDH. After the .com, go /Atlanta so they know what part of the world, meaning Eliminized, you are reaching out to them from so they can help you with your problem. So your full homework assignment, ELIMINIZE.com /Atlanta, Eliminized.com /Atlanta for odor-free, clean, fresh air. Eliminized Service, proud sponsors of everything SDH on a Thursday Thoughts. Okay, so Parzival is looking for the 3-minute rule, and I will effort the 3-minute rule. Trying not to give a 3-minute warning. MLS Next Pro Rule changes 2023. Okay, so all right. Schedule with new competition rules. That's 22. No, I don't need 22. I need 23. Unveils 2023 with the new rules. Once again, loading and spinning and spinning and loading. And so when we finally get those rule changes, I will post them. I'll read them and then I'll post them here in the Twitch pitch, by the way. And, this morning, yes, thank you, Alex, for the thank you, Bam. There we go. Bam beat me to it. Excellent. All right. So Bam has the rule as it is written, according to our friends at the 18. Players suspected to have an injury and stay on the ground for longer than 15 seconds will be evaluated and taken off the field by a medical team. Once taken off the field, the player is then not allowed to come back into the game until 3 minutes have passed. So there you go. What do you want to bet? And like I said, this is the cynic in me here. It's almost like a count out in wrestling. 11, 12, 13, get up. One of those kinds of things. So you've got all that. And once again, remember, in the playoff format, you can pick your own opponent. So you got that going for you. No ties. Got a shootout. To further decrease preventable match delays and increase effective match time also in substitutions, the time substitution rule allows a maximum of 10 seconds for a player to leave the field when he's substituted. If he doesn't leave, replacement player will only be able to enter after a 60-second holding period, resulting in the offending team playing a man down for a minute at a time. So you got that one too. So you have to keep an eye on both substitutions and injuries. And thank you, Bam, for having faster computers and faster fingers than me. So that's what you're staring at from MLS Next Pro. Todd Boehly. Now, let's see. So we've got Todd Boehly to talk about in Champions League. Todd Boehly predicted one thing. That did not happen. In Alonso and Almada both in training. That's very, very cool. I know a lot of folks would sit there and go, maybe when NYC comes to town, we need to find out somebody who can introduce himself to Gabe Siegel. That's just me. Yeah, and Parsville, it isn't written well. 15 seconds from the ref blowing the play to stop. 15 seconds from going down. Is it a real 15 seconds? Well, and I think, and if our official's feeling of 15 seconds, Nick's, I think that if you get it with the nearest touch line is a part of that play. It's not where you're having to wander all the way to the far end. The nearest touch line is a part of that discussion, I think. So you'll see center refs point to, it's like, nope, you're leaving that way. If he understands that, you're like 2/3 of the field away from the bench, they're going to point, they're going to have you go off on the far touch line. So I think that, so you're supposed to go off at nearest touch line, but we'll see. So we'll see what happens there. We're getting into Champions League, and after the dust up and bust up, looks like Jude Bellingham is not going to Liverpool. Liverpool's going to be shopping elsewhere. AC Milan beats Napoli by the score of 1-0. And Anguissa got a red. That's not going to help matters out. Benacer scores the winner in the first leg. So Milan up 1-0 over Napoli. So we'll keep an eye on that. And then Real Madrid. Todd Boehly predicted 2-0 Chelsea, I believe. He had the score right at least. But it went the other way. Karim Benzema scores in the 21st. Marcos Asensio scores in the 74th. Ben Chilwell gets a red with 30 to go. So you had a 63,000 at the Bernabeu. Real Madrid taking control of that quarterfinal. So Real Madrid 2-0 winners over Chelsea in that first leg, and they've got to go back to Stamford Bridge. Today, you've got Europa Conference League. You've got Europa League. You got a lot of fun stuff there. And since we're there, we'll go ahead and roll through the lineups and let you know what's going on. Europa League, you've got the round of 8. First legs, Feyenoord a favorite at home. And like I said, there's a really good article up about Arne Slot. I think it's in The Athletic, about what he's doing at Feyenoord. And they're a plus 134 at home. Roma's a plus 242 on the road. Your draw's a plus 218. Bayer Leverkusen against Royal Union SG. Bayer Leverkusen, big favorite at a minus 200. Juve a minus 122 against Sporting. And Manchester United's a minus 256 at home. Your draw against Sevilla is almost a plus 400. Sevilla on the road is a plus 785 in the composite. So all of those, Feyenoord Roma's at 12:45. The other matches are at 3. And in Europa Conference League today, it is once again the round of 8 first legs. West Ham is at Ghent, and they are favored at a plus 127. West Ham favored at Ghent. Okay. Anderlecht at home, close to the margin of error against AZ Alkmaar. Anderlecht a plus 162 in the composite. AZ Alkmaar a plus 174. Your draw's a plus 221. Nice on the road, a big favorite against Basel, plus 108. Basel's a plus 282 at home, and Lech Poznan, a big underdog at home against Fiorentina at a minus 137. Lech Poznan plus 387 in the composite. So you got that today. Once again, the one match at 12:45, West Ham and Ghent, the other three at 3 o'clock and on Golasso. Ricky. Yeah, Bowley. Thought he was doing something with that 3-0 prediction. He was. Bam. Night. Thanks for hanging out, as you always do. I know that the Spring Forward has really helped you getting to hang out with us here. And it's great to always get your perspectives on everything, especially from down there. And you keep us posted on the Australian League and me on the AFL, since I don't get to watch all of it. So, once again, great to have you here, Bam, as always. So, yeah, Bowley thought he was doing something with that 3-0 prediction. Yeah, no, not really. So, didn't go well. And I know a lot of folks were sitting there going, Todd Bowley just kind of needs not to do those kinds of things, whether he's trying to play up his team or not. And then there was Jason Burt. So Bowley's prediction, this is Jason Burt, and he was at the Bernabeu. Bowley had predicted the 3-0 win for Chelsea, and Burt at the Bernabeu goes, but that was as diluted as buying a club for £2.5 billion, spending more than $600 million on players and not even signing a center forward. And like I said, this is Jason Burt's lead at the Telegraph. Instead of the smugness of his expected victory, Chelsea's co-owner was only the 5 goals out as he sat in Real Madrid Stadium to see the Champions League holders take a firm grip of the quarterfinal. This is Bowley's quote. Chelsea's going to win 3-0. I say I have a lot of faith, and we're going to win 3-0 tonight. Bowley had said on his way to the game, but that numb, dumb faith was dwindling long before the end as his expensively assembled team will reduce to 10 men for the final half hour after Ben Chilwell's dismissal. They really will have to summon the spirit of 2012 if they're to get through this tie next Tuesday to face probably Manchester City, or less likely Bayern Munich in the Final Four. 11 years ago, they defied the odds in every round to win the trophy for the first time. But if they overturn this deficit with this team and in this form, it would be even more striking than those incredible ties. The only comfort was that it was not a more emphatic defeat. 2-0 feels doable at home, but then does anyone really think Chelsea can score the goals to reverse this? It's 4 games since they found the net while shutting out Real, who have Karim Benzema. The center forward always seems to score against Premier League sides, with his last 11 goals and 20 in all in this competition coming against them. Predatory first-half goal was to kind of strike Chelsea, who's never seemed to able to score. For Frank Lampard, it's been an unhappy return so far for Chelsea. 2 games, 2 defeats, not even a goal scored. Brought in as interim coach to revive the season until the end. There soon could be absolutely nothing to play for. No bounce since Graham Potter was sacked. None at all. So that's Jason Burt. Sam Dean says the door's open for Chelsea to make a comeback. I mean, yeah, what else are you going to say? But, yeah, so Chelsea did not fare well in the first go-around. Oliver Brown, by the way, chief sports writer for the Telegraph, headline, and this is an op-ed that he posted early this morning. Appointing Lampard on advice of James Corden would be keeping with Bowley's Chelsea soap opera. Although the manager has dismissed claims the TV personality helped him land the job, Chelsea's American co-owner appears not to understand English football. There we go. All right. On the record verdicts from Todd Bowley are as pithy as they are memorable. Approached in the streets by fans outside Stamford Bridge last month, he said of the 2-2 draw with Everton, ish effing game. Intercepted outside a Madrid restaurant before heading to the Bernabeu. He predicted Chelsea's going to win 3-0. In a now familiar pattern, words blew up in his face a few hours later with a tepid 2-0 defeat. And there's your Ted Lasso reference. It only took 2 paragraphs for Oliver Brown to go to the stereotype. So we'll pass by that. So there you go. So that's your headline in your first paragraph from Oliver Brown. So it was in the Telegraph was the article about Ernest Lüth and getting him away from Feyenoord. But if I'm Chelsea or Spurs or Crystal Palace and I'm chasing after Sleuth, I'm like, nope, not going there. Not happening. That is not going to be the case. So we got that. Since we're in the Premier League, let me go through this. And this has been some really good work by our friends at Yosemar Football, by the way. And in addition to the article that was put out by the Telegraph this morning, the Premier League is deciding that they are not going to have gambling firms on Premier League football shirts. Of course, the hook in all of this is that the ban is going to voluntarily come into effect for the start of the season in morning forecard 26-27. So we got 4 years. Yeah. We got 4 years to figure it out. Yeah. Next, I'm sure it's out of context, but the Lampard quote, if he didn't realize Madrid were that good, looks either ignorant or arrogant. I'm sure I think there's some out of context there. So the front of your favorite team may have a gambling sponsor on it in the all the divisions of English football, but in the Premier League, and it probably will be more beneficial financially for the teams in the Championship, League One and League Two, and further down in the EFL pyramid after this. But in the Premier League, 26-27, so they got 4 years to figure it out. Premier League's become the first UK sports league to voluntarily restrict gambling sponsorship, banning shirt adverts from 2026. We're in 2023, so technically, we're 3 seasons away? In a move that will particularly affect sponsorship options for those outside the top 6, clubs will no longer be able to display an advert for a betting firm on the front of their match day kit. Doesn't say anything about the sleeve. Maybe that's later. Everton, West Ham, and at the forecast, we're finding this out together. In a move that will, let's see. So Everton, West Ham, Bournemouth, Southampton, Brentford, Fulham, Leeds, and Newcastle. So it's 2, 4, 6, 8 of the 20, 40%, have deals for front of shirt sponsorship with gambling firms. Those deals are collectively worth about $60 million each season. Villa and Wolves have a betting firm as their sleeve sponsor, but the new rules, here we go. The new rules, which were agreed by 18 of the 20, with 2 abstaining, will only apply to main front logos. LED stadium advertising for gambling companies also unaffected. Yep, you're right on, Alex. So sleeves will be okay. Ad boards will still be okay. So they'll still be able to get their TV exposure. But you just can't have them on the front of your shirt 3 years from now. Long period of grace means clubs can honor existing sponsorship deals with 26-7, the first season from which gambling firms cannot buy one of the most prominent advertising spaces in world sport. None of the big 6 clubs have a betting firm as their main shirt sponsor, while Newcastle, who look best placed to break into that elite, have a £6.5 million a year deal with Fun 88 due to expire at the end of the season following their takeover by Saudi Arabian investors. Negotiations on sponsorship partnerships with blue-chip companies can often take months to agree, are so more unlikely for a newly promoted club who might just have a matter of weeks to maximize their top-flight status. Premier League is now also working with other sports on the development of a new gambling sponsorship code, a long-awaited white paper on gambling. There's another white paper due to be published by the government in the coming weeks, but a similar shirt ban in respect of the English Football League is not expected. Campaigners have questioned the logic of such a selective ban. Quote, "It is a significant acceptance of the harm caused by gambling sponsorship," end quote, said Big Step, a campaign group which wants to end gambling advertising and sponsorship in football. Sidebar, good luck. Quote, "But just moving logos to a different part of the kit while allowing pitch side advertising and league sponsorship to continue is totally incoherent." That's from our friends at Big Step. Quote, "Without government action on all forms of gambling ads in football at every level, Online casinos will exploit any voluntary measures and continue to market their products through our national sport. Paragraph. Although this outcome isn't perfect, it's a huge step. The government and the sport itself now need to wake up to the reality that gambling ads are unhealthy, unpopular, and will be kicked out of football. Delaying that moment is risking the health and lives of another generation of young fans. Culture Secretary Lucy Frazier welcomed the move. She was given her 2 sentences. Tony Bloom, owner of Brighton and one of the most renowned sports gamblers, is among those who've backed a ban on shirt sponsorship. Personal point of view, really important to be aware of children seeing gambling or betting advertising on the shirt in particular because they buy shirts. I don't think having gambling sponsorship on shirts is good, but I understand that for some clubs, particularly clubs down the leagues with much less revenue, the gambling companies pay the best, so it's a difficult decision to turn them down. Although there is gambling advertising all around, I just think on the shirts it's the most obvious, so that would give me the most concern, end quote. Now, our friends at Yosemar Football have done some fantastic work in trying to track this stuff down and figure out who's behind these betting firms. And what they did is, as an example, they decided to track down 8xBet. 8xBet is attached to Manchester City, the official betting partner of Manchester City in Asia, as an example. So, what Jack Kerr and Philippe Auclair did headline: a company promising work with Manchester City's betting partner is offering great pay, safe work, and no human trafficking. This was back in November, and it was auto-translated from Vietnamese, one of the dozens on social media trying to entice passport holders across the Cambodian border to work with 8xBet. 8xBet, regional partnership with Manchester City, prime advertising space at home games. And this was an article that was posted back on March 29th. So it's about two weeks old. There was a September investigation in 8xBet that found substantial links to a Dubai-based marketing firm from Kerr and Auclair. This has led some to accuse 8xBet of being a ghost sponsor, basically a fictitious entity created for the sole purpose of inflating the club's commercial revenues. But could 8xBet's real story involve something else altogether, like the human trafficking that one recruiter felt compelled to distance the company from? 2 hours north of Ho Chi Minh City, across the Cambodian border, is the town of Bavet, home to special economic zones that have been set up to facilitate cross-border trade between Cambodia and Vietnam. The article says the main street looks like a would-be Las Vegas, a haven for casino operators in a country overrun by them, despite locals being prohibited from using them. It's also becoming known for its cyber scam slave compounds. Jeremy Douglas, regional rep for the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime. Bavet is one of several locations in Cambodia and the Mekong region where organized crime have migrated casino, online gambling, and scam operations. Across Southeast Asia, there are an estimated 500,000 people working as scammers, the global anti-scam org told a recent BBC documentary. And I'll post the link to this article as we go, because it is a big investigative piece, and this is required reading for the day. Some that are there willingly, happily luring in victims by building up trust over many months before convincing them to put their money into an illegitimate crypto scheme or a casino that doesn't pay out. But many others are not, and the documentary, just one of many investigations into the problem, shows workers being handcuffed to chairs and poles and then being tortured with an electroshock weapon, forced to the ground, beaten with sticks, or locked behind bars. Douglas says prison-like conditions and torture have been well documented and corroborated in cyber scam compounds across the region, and the syndicates behind them, while the subject of occasional crackdowns, migrate to places where they've been able to do what they want, like Bavet. The town is home to a little-known company called the Great Wall Corporation. First appeared online in mid-2022, and it seems to have no other clients than 8xBet. It's also the company that 8xBet recruiters, like the one who declared there were no human traffickers, work with. Great Wall lists Bavette as one of the 3 branches where it operates, along with Manila and Dubai, but the border town dominates the few pieces of content the firm have released online. On their YouTube channel, there are 3 videos, 2 of which show the induction process for workers on arrival. In one, a newly arrived worker hands over her passport and is given a Great Wall staff pass in return. Earlier in the video, she hops out of an SUV after it pulls up outside a row of 4 apartment blocks. As she's chaperoned to her new workplace, the camera pans to the left for a fraction of a second to reveal a bright yellow tiled building. Using open source intelligence and geolocation analysis, Yosemar has been able to establish that the buildings are located in a recently built compound to the south of the town's border crossing. Google Street View for the area, which hasn't been updated since 2014, shows buffalo wandering in what fields at the time. Archived satellite imagery shows development of the area taking place in 2018 and 19. Videos from social media and photos from Cambodian news service VOD, which has covered the issue of cyber scam compounds extensively, confirm this is the location. The area is one of the most notorious for keeping workers in captivity, according to Vietnam's Zing News. 12 dorms, 4 office buildings, completely isolated from the outside by barbed wire fencing, in an unverified translation of the reporting. Bavette, advertised as a promised land for many Vietnamese workers. Reality is somewhat different. Cyber Scam Monitor, an anonymous group archiving and publicizing abuses that take place in cyber scam compounds, says it fears the worst. And so this is part of the article, and it is a long article. So like I said, this is requested reading for today. And they've built this case all the way through, and it goes into the background of 8xBet and what the investigation has done there, and how 8xBet is, like I said, tied to Manchester City. So I will post the link to the article. And our friends at Yosemar Football, they've done some fantastic investigative work. And so if you want to go into some real deep dives when it comes to the sport of football and a lot of the investigations that they do, and they've gotten in trouble with some organizing bodies and some teams and things like that for the investigations that they do. But Yosemar Football has done some really good stuff when it comes to investigating, and so they decided to go behind 8xBet, and that's what they found out. That's the beginning of what they found out. I just put the link in the article in the Twitch pitch to our friends at yosemarfootball.com. Ricky, public service announcement. Atlanta United Toronto, one of the 6 free on Apple TV games this weekend, so that's a good thing. Knocking off gambling companies. Formula One did this with tobacco companies decades ago. So did IndyCar, where you couldn't have Marlboro on the side anymore. Found their way around it. Gambling companies have the money to outsmart the rule. Yes, they do. So that's pretty strong there when you're staring at what you're looking at. Other stuff this morning, and like I said, anything's on the table when it comes to rosters and things like that. You look at what we saw from the USMNT and the Continental Classico, the All-State Classico roster, and it gives the chance for a lot of folks to get some work. Right now, the way the roster's laid out, Drake Callender, Roman Celentano, Caleb Wiley, Joshua Winder, they all have the chance to add a number 1 to their cap number. So very, very cool stuff there. Sean Johnson is the 3rd goalkeeper mentioned. Like I said, it's just because it's alphabetical. And Sean has 11 caps so far with everything that we're seeing. So defenders on the list, Serginho Dest is on the list. Julian Gressel was added for the chance for his 3rd cap. Aaron Long, Matt Miazga, Shaq Moore. DeAndre Yedlin has the most caps any defender that's there has a chance for number 78. Walker Zimmerman is 39 caps in. He could be chasing number 40. Midfielders, Kellen Acosta, Aiden Morris, who signed a big contract yesterday with Columbus Crew, contract extension with them, multi-year. Christian Roldan, James Sands, Alan Senora, Jackson Ewell. That's your 6 midfielders, your 5 forwards. Areola, Cade Cowell, Jesus Ferreira, Jordan Morris, Brandon Vasquez. So that's what you're looking at for Continental Classico, with 3 keepers, 9 defenders, 6 midfielders, and 5 forwards. So it is 23 that have been brought in for the Continental Classico. And will be interesting to see what the lineup is in this one to go to Glendale, Arizona. It's going to be on TBS, Telemundo, Universo, HBO Max, and Peacock. So there will be no lack of coverage and no lack of checking out videos in these cases. Glendale, Arizona, 10 o'clock, USA and El Tri for the All-State Continental Classico. And will be really, really interesting to see what it looks like as you're laying things out. So it'll be very, very cool with Continental Classico. Great to see those names and those numbers attached and added to everything going on there. Also, this morning, some stuff from the NWSL, and I wanted to get into this too. Stephanie Kang, we talk about we talk about how things are laid out with Washington Spirit. And it looks like the ownership for Washington Spirit might be chasing after franchises in Spain. So that would be, that once again, we talk about how we talk about how the footprint of the ownership groups continues to increase. And so Michelle Kang is looking like she is going to be pursuing interest in teams in Spain. So we've got that coming across as news. So Lyon is denying this, but Omar Garrick over at The Athletic, Lyon have denied reports that Michelle Kang is set to acquire a majority stake in the women's team there. Report from L'Equipe suggested that Kang, the owner and CEO of health information technology company Cognosante, pledged to cover Lyon's women's annual deficit of 12 million euro, 10.5 million pounds, and purchased 52% of the shares in the club. So you've got that. It was reported that Kang, who is the majority owner of the Washington Spirit, reached an agreement several weeks ago with John Textor via his company, Eagle Football. But in a statement Wednesday evening, Lyon denied the report, saying no agreement has been made with any parties over a proposed takeover. Quote, Olympique Lyonnais would like to deny the inaccurate information published by L'Equipe on a possible transfer of its women's team, which was announced last Monday to the players by Vincent Ponceau, Deputy Director General at OL Group. The situation described in this article in a passage deleted from the version published at 5:52 p.m. unverified is factually and formally impossible since our players were in the national team and Vincent Ponceau traveling abroad in recent days. Moreover, if a desire to create a global platform dedicated exclusively to women's football has always been a reality for OL Group and Jean-Michel Aulas, the description given by L'Equipe is deeply distorted. No agreement has been ratified, and even less in the terms described by the newspaper. The club did confirm, and this is the other half of this, the club did confirm that plans are in place to sell OL Reign, and Reign Group have been hired to handle the sale. OL Group announces it has given a mandate to sell its NWSL franchise to the investment bank of the Reign Group. Olympique Lyonnais is happy and proud to have been able to build the new foundations of OL Reign, to have contributed to its sporting success, Shield winner semifinalist in NWSL 2022, but to also have repatriated the team in Seattle with its fans and community as OL Group committed to when it was acquired in 2019. NWSL spokesperson added, "We are aware of OL Group's interest in exploring the sale of OL Reign and will continue to work closely with them to ensure any potential owner or owners are aligned with our league's vision and values." So let's see if we follow this here. So Lyon, Michelle Kang, it is announced in media circles that through L'Équipe, Michelle Kang pledged to cover the annual deficit of Lyon's women's club and purchase 52% of the shares, reaching an agreement several weeks ago with John Textor. But that's been denied by Lyon. At the same time, Lyon is exploring the idea of a sale of OL Reign. Right now, we will treat these as two separate items, because I don't know if you could have a Hunt family situation or an AEG family situation in the NWSL. I do not know. Owning multiple franchises. Right now, we will treat these as two separate entities and ideas. Michelle Kang, allegedly, possibly, apparently, probably, maybe, has picked up more than 50% of the shares of the club for Lyon's women's club, and apparently plans to cover their deficit, wants to buy a majority of the shares. OL Reign is looking to be sold by same group through Reign. So we'll keep an eye on this. Michelle Kang, Washington Spirit, interested in Lyon. Lyon looking at the idea of selling OL Reign. So like I said, we'll keep an eye on this in the NWSL. So there you go. A couple of other comments from y'all as we've been going through rosters. Knicks. Yes, no doubt. Knicks, F1, same problem. Shadow companies sponsoring these days, especially when drivers want to bring their parents' companies to the table. See Haas and how well that went. Wondering if all the overrate and overhype of Serginho Dest or what. I mean, remember, there's injuries that have been attached here as well. So, and need. And if a club says yes or no, a lot of stuff we don't know when it comes to Serginho Dest. So we'll keep an eye. Niall thinks he's got promise offensively, needs to work on his defending like much of the modern-day fullback. Yeah. Parzival parents buying teams seems to benefit Aston Martin pretty well right now, no doubt. Yes. You ain't kidding. But I think, honestly, for Haas, it's just getting better drivers than having somebody like Mazepin as a part of your stable. And I also think that having Haas having to stick with their technology an added year, that really hurt them last year, but it's not hurting them this year with everybody now on line, I think, with the same technology, and you have better drivers. So you see, you got folks with Haas getting into the points. Also, let's see, what was I going to? Gossip, rumor, and innuendo, and things left unsaid. Got to get into that this morning. And we will preview what is on the telly so you can watch what where and get squared away. How many of you have looked at the Golasso channel? This is another question to the floor. The new creation of Paramount Plus and CBS Sports Network, the Golasso channel, where before Soccer's morning show, they have morning footy. Didn't know how many of you have had the chance to keep an eye on that program, see what it looks like. Friend of the network, Poppy Miller, and we need to have her back on to talk about what's going on there at CBS with all the expansions and stuff. She's got an afternoon show that she hosts for an hour. So how many of you have dived into Golasso Network over on CBS? Let me know what you think. That's going to be kind of a running question as we go. Gossip, rumor, and innuendo, things left unsaid. Manchester City lead Real Madrid in the race to sign Jude Bellingham after Liverpool dropped out of contention to sign the 19-year-old. Vincent Kompany is Spurs' number one target to replace Antonio Conte. That's the 3-word paper. Take the information at your own peril. Vincent, don't do it. And first, and foremost, if you had taken Burnley to the heights that you have in the championship, clearing promotion with 7 matches to play with the style of play that you have formulated, I legitimately think that you're kind of doing something right. I think you're doing something right. So why jump and chase after, what you're hunting for and figure it out from there? West Ham's Declan Rice, Brighton's Moises Caicedo, Inter's Nicolo Barella, Wolves' Mateus Nunes remain on Liverpool's shortlist for a new midfielder. That's from our friend Florian Plettenberg. Barca going to step up their interest in Ilkay Gundogan. Once again, how are you going to pay for him? After his performance, especially against Bayern Munich in the Champions League. So there's that to stare at. Looks like Thursdays with Nico will be tomorrow afternoon. And so, like I said, this is what I'm trying to confirm as we're talking. Arsenal, Liverpool, Manchester United monitoring Bayern Munich's midfielder Ryan Gravenberch. Spurs, West Ham, Crystal Palace, all keen on Arne Slot. Don't go in any of those cases. Tottenham, West Ham, Crystal Palace, Chelsea, don't. Don't do it. Don't do it. Arsenal targeting a move for Michael Olise from Crystal Palace, valued at more than £40 million. Arsenal previously inquired about N'Golo Kante, according to Le Parisien. Fulham, Villa, Crystal Palace interested in Besiktas midfielder Gedson Fernandes. Liverpool sent scouts to watch Fulham midfielder João Palhinha on several occasions as they consider a summer move there. Arsenal, Bayern Munich, Borussia Dortmund, Monaco have shown interest in Wilfried Zaha with his contract expiring in the summer. So is this the year where Wilfried Zaha finally goes? Wilfried Zaha has not signed a deal. He has not been promised reinforcements or anything like that. I don't know if Crystal Palace can afford to keep him. So we'll keep an eye on that. Leeds have put a price tag of £40 million on Ilan Meslier. French right back Sacha Boui, a former target for Crystal Palace, wants to leave Galatasaray with a move either to the Prem or the Bundesliga his priority. Chris Smalling is going to sign a new 2-year deal at Roma, despite interest from Inter Milan, Juve, and Premier League clubs. Arsenal demanding £35 million for Valérien Balogun, who's currently on loan at Reims and a target for RB Leipzig. Once again, that's from Florian Plettenberg. That's first go-round of the papers. And then let's see what as we avoid the 3 and the 4-letter paper, as we traditionally do, we'll see what else is on their minds this morning. Marcus Rashford's out a few games with a muscle injury. I guess that needs to be completely and totally just as nebulous as possible, so you're not giving up any kind of information to anybody. Sean Dyche refused to dismiss speculation that Dominic Calvert-Lewin could return to the squad for the match against Fulham, absent with a hamstring problem since the win over Arsenal on February 4. Truth is training, and he's going along well. He only had a one-word response after that about how he was training. Sean Dyche said, good. Seamus Coleman sitting out after a hamstring injury. We mentioned the gambling part. Thomas Iliakis said he will not be participating in the third round of bidding to become the next owner of Manchester United, calling the process a farce. Founder and chair of 21st Century Capital hit out at the Glazers for, quote, giving no respect to the club and accusing them of trying to maximize the profit for the sellers. Well, yeah, if you're selling, that's what you're trying to do. The Finnish entrepreneur claimed that the delays will make it very difficult for the new owners to build a winning team for next season. So Ziliakis is pretty hot. Spurs and Brighton charged over the touchline stuff that happened in the 58th minute of the match last Saturday when Christian Stellini and Roberto De Zerbi were both sent off. FA says that both clubs failed to ensure their technical area occupants conducted themselves in an orderly fashion. It's a lot of words. Statement does not comment on whether the two coaches will be punished with a suspension. Spurs and Brighton have until Monday to respond. Charged for a mass confrontation. It is alleged both clubs failed to ensure their technical area occupants conducted themselves in an orderly fashion and or do not behave in a way which is improper. There you go. Watford have confirmed Chris Wilder will stay in charge for the remainder of the year amid speculation around his future. Wilder was appointed in March after the club sacked Slaven Bilic, who was in charge for less than 6 months, which is about average with this ownership group. Bilic won 10 of his 26 matches. Wilder has seen Watford go down the championship table to 12th with 1 win and 5 points in his 6 games. However, reports the club were considering making a change have been dismissed. Ben Manga, technical director, quote, "The speculation is totally disrespectful to Chris and his staff. As Chris has said after recent games, we're all fully focused on ending the season strongly and pushing as hard as we can while there's still a chance of making the playoffs." All right. Let's just go back, shall we? Let's just see. Let's just take a look. All right. Let's take a peek at the number of matches here. We'll go back. And Javi Gracia will be your league leader, but we'll go back. Yeah, we'll go back to Zola. We'll go back to Gianfranco Zola. Wilder, 6 matches. Bilic, 25. He won 10. Rob Edwards, 11 matches. Hodgson was in for 18. They were relegated. Claudio Ranieri was there for 14. Cisco Munoz was there for 36. Vladimir Ivic, 22. He was 9, 8, and 5. Hayden Mullins was a caretaker. He drew both. Nigel Pearson, 22 matches, 7, 5, and 10. Mullins, a caretaker again. He was 0, 1, and 1. Quique Sanchez Flores, 12 matches, September to December 2019. Javi Gracia was there for a year and a half, 66 matches. Marco Silva was there for 26. Mazzari for 41. Quique Sanchez Flores version 1.0, 44 matches. Slavica Jokanovic, 36. Billy McKinley for 2. Oscar Garcia for 4. Giuseppe Sanino for 36. Zola for 75. That takes you back to July of 2012. That's what Watford has been doing. 75, 36, 4, 2, 36. Promoted. 44, 41, 26, 66, 12, 2, 22, 2 and a caretaker. Ivic at 22. Munoz at 36, promoted to the Premier League. Ranieri, 14. Hodgson, 18, relegated. Rob Edwards, 11. Slaven Bilic, 25. Chris Wilder currently at 6. That's Watford. That's the Watford ownership group for you. You thought Abby, good to see you. We still have to figure out chocolate matzo. You thought Chris Penso was a quick trigger. Watford puts Chris Penso to shame when it comes to their managers. Shame, I say. Shame. S-H-A-M-E, shame. If you're a Watford fan, you are a better person than I am. Absolutely a better person than I am. I don't know how you do it. Being driven as crazy as you are with all this stuff. Alexis is getting interest from Liverpool, Chelsea, and Manchester United. No surprise there. Looking at other things, you're looking at Euro 2028, the development there. Eric Ten Hag with Marcus Rashford out is looking at Anthony Martial to step up. And for Manchester City to say, you've got to learn from your failures to finish Bayern off. You win 3-0, but you still feel that there's work to do. Sounds like a team that's chasing after as many titles as they can grab this year. You've got all of that stuff that's there. What's on the telly? Now, we know that what's on the telly starts at 12 o'clock or 12:45, really. So, our friends at Soccer America. Yes, it's already beautiful. Thank you. Awesome. What's on the telly? Tigres Motagua once again. That one's on at 10 o'clock tonight. You can catch that on FS1 and on Tudane. Okay, well, but I mean, Abby, if they've got a Golasso show day for sure, no doubt. But Abby, if they've got an idea, and if it's in line with the quote from Jim Curtin, very cool. I mean, like I said, if it's cool and in line, it's cool and in line. Tudane's got the doubleheader in Europa League. Feyenoord and Rome at 12:45. Manchester United Sevilla at 3. Unimas is also showing the 3 o'clock. Europa League on Golasso Network is your doubleheader. Feyenoord, Roma, Bayer Leverkusen, Union Saint-Gilloise. Paramount Plus, very, very busy. No surprise. 4 matches in the Argentine Primera. Arsenal, Godoy Cruz at 1. Colón Talleres at 3:30. River Plate and Gimnasia at 6:30. Tigre Sarmiento at 8:30. Busy, busy day in the Argentine Primera. 4 from the Europa League, the one at 12:45. 3 of the 4 at 3 o'clock. Leverkusen, Union SG, Juve Sporting, Manchester United, Sevilla. All 4 matches in the Conference League are at Paramount Plus. VIX has Juve and Sporting. VIX Plus has 3 Europa and all 4 in the Conference League. So that's your Thursday viewing. And if there's anything out there, anything out there that you want to watch that you haven't had the chance to watch, go to our friends at Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. Helps out the show, helps out the network, helps you with the leagues that you might not have had a chance to track down any other way. Fanatis. Jason got me hooked. I blame him. Other papers, once again, avoiding the 3 and the 4-letter paper as we traditionally do. Manchester City, according to the Daily Telegraph, willing to pay whatever it takes to sign Jude Bellingham. Spurs and Everton have agreed to hide branding while hosting matches at Euro 2028 if they finally strike naming rights deals for their stadium. PSG coach Christophe Galtier has received death threats, and he and his family have been placed under protection following alleged claims of racism made against him. The Times, Real Madrid have made Jude Bellingham their top transfer target. So basically take any team and any name and attach it to Jude Bellingham. Anybody with money, Jude Bellingham, after a meeting with senior figures at the club and reps acting for the young England midfielder. Eric Lamela says he can understand why Spurs fans want Mauricio Pochettino back in charge of the club. Also from the Times, the legal tackle height in Scottish rugby is to be lowered. Good for you. The Athletic, we talk about Watford and Chris Wilder and the vote of confidence, I guess. Preliminary discussions with Francesco Farioli about succeeding Chris Wilder. Jude to Barca, exactly. Yeah, 4-card, they'll get right on that. Sure, we'll save it. Yeah, we'll sign him. With what? England are going to train at the Sunshine Coast Stadium in Queensland, Australia. It'll be their first base camp for the Women's World Cup this summer. Also on the board from the Mirror, Arsenal lodged an inquiry for N'Golo Kante. So much for Rudy Garcia getting that one match to save his job. Times had one match. Rudy Garcia, nope, didn't happen. Piqué reportedly helped persuade Barcelona to part company with Lionel Messi 2 years ago. Luton's going to have to fork out about £10 million to improve their stadium if they're promoted to the Premier League this season. And Stevie G is happy to bide his time as he plots his return to a top-level management position. Keep an eye on this from the Daily Star. Worried neighbors reported Spurs forward Richarlison to the RSPCA after growing concerned about the noise his dogs were making. And Manchester United have reportedly stepped up their efforts to sign Danny Olmo from RB Leipzig this summer. Scottish Sun, Hearts goalkeeper Craig Gordon facing further surgery to help his recovery from the double leg break. Don't go looking for that photo. And that is your look in and around the papers. Yeah, Jude to Barca. Absolutely. Tomorrow, once again, is the Friday free-for-all, Freestyle Friday and the free kick. 9 o'clock, we'll go through all the news of the morning. 9:30, Beyond Goals Mentoring. 10 o'clock, it's the whip around. Jason should be making his appearance, getting ready as Atlanta United gets ready for Toronto. Ozzy Alonso and Thiago Almada in training. And Brad Gazan out 10 to 12 weeks. We can get into the issues with refereeing and no cards and Siegel and Burke and all those kinds of things with Jason coming up tomorrow morning. So, as always, the 9:05 show for Soccer's Morning Show on a Friday will always fly by, and it's always great to catch up with folks. Always great to catch up with our folks at Beyond Goals Mentoring and get you ready for the weekend. Sign up for the Fantasy League. If you haven't done so, sign up for the Fantasy League. Jason Wright with a W Agency on Facebook. Jason Wright with a W AGEN on Twitter. And you can beat me because I'm awful this year. And the other thing is that I always set my lineup early, and I lock it in, unless it's that rare instance of somebody, and I'm actually in front of my computer, and I recognize late that somebody's not playing, and sometimes I still miss it. So we'll see. But join the Fantasy League, have fun, hang out with your friends, and we can do that as well. I think that's everything on the list. Did that. Yeah. And once again, thanks to our friends at Osborne High School last night. When we know what our match is going to be, match is next week, when it comes to the high school game of the week, we'll let you know. That'll be round 2 of the playoffs. Round 1 had some 4s beating some 1s on the boys' side and some history on the boys' side and the girls' side, too. So very, very cool stuff as the soccer playoffs begin, and your game of the weeks are here on SDH, brought to us by our friends at Kaiser Permanente. Thanks for hanging out for yet another day. This will be up on the audio side in short order, and we'll go through everything all over again tomorrow. So for everybody here at SDH, MLS Next Pro Show will be out later today, and it will be up and running, and everybody will get to find out what's going on MLS Next Pro as we get ready for yet another weekend in the league. So for everybody here at SDH, for Jarrett, for Jason, for Nick, I'm just John. Played safe, everybody. Thanks again for another go-around of Soccer's Morning Show. It's the end of the show, which it means one thing. It means I get to do this. We'll be back at it again tomorrow morning, 9:05, because we firmly believe in Turner Time.